617-282-0685. 617
282-0685. Thank you, Deacon Renee Wise, our station manager here at the Boston Praise Radio and TV Network. Kingdom greetings and God's richest blessings be multiplied to you and to yours, beloved family. You're tuned into another segment of Healing Our Land's live interactive worldwide broadcast exclusively here on the Boston Praise Radio and TV Network. I'm your host, Pastor Hobbs. I'll be with you through till 6 p.m. We have the privilege of broadcasting Tuesday through Friday, 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as on Sunday evenings, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. You can call us live on the air, 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. We will be having a special guest candidate for Boston City Council District 3, where I live, where the Suffolk County House of Correction is, where I serve as a volunteer chaplain at the Nashua County Jail and the Suffolk County House of Correction, where we are praying for and we are looking at strategy to be able to respond to our brothers and sisters who are caught up in the grips of addiction, dealing with trauma. Over on, people refer to it as mass and CAS, or Miracle Mile is what I choose to refer to it as those precious souls are miracles, and we've got to believe and care for them, and with dignity and understanding. But by the grace of God, there go you, there go I. So again, Rosalind Warnham will be my guest from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. live here in the studio. We've had every District 3 candidate on Healing Our Land's broadcast, with the exception of John Fitzgerald. We have tried to reach out to him, and I'm not been able to get him to come on to the broadcast. So if one has the ability to be able to reach out to him, as we are nonpartisan and we want to extend the invitation for all candidates here on Boston Praise Radio and TV Network. We have had our first at-large city councilor. Whom was that? Help me, Holy Spirit. Oh, Lord Jesus, help me. It will come to me. My mind is reeling. I'm just coming back from Chicago. Myself and Brother Eric Kennedy had the privilege of going to Chicago for 50 years of mass incarceration. And we post that we are challenging felony re-enfranchisement to make sure that our brothers and sisters behind the walls who are serving felony convictions can have their rights restored here in Massachusetts. That was stripped from them in 2000. And as a result, quite candidly, of the effectiveness of our brothers at the African American Coalition Committee at MCI Norfolk, their effectiveness. So as a result of that, to mute their voices and not have them be able to have the impact on the outside or of their own conditions that they're housed there. So we are in the process of hopefully that being restored here in Massachusetts. I believe we are the second state in the country to move this. It now takes a constitutional amendment, and by the grace of God, it has passed the elections committee, both House and Senate. It now sits in the Constitutional Convention agenda to be pulled from that to ultimately be passed. But we don't want it to die in that agenda. And we need you, every person who is a voting person, to call your state representative, to call your senator here in the state of Massachusetts, and strongly urge them to pass this legislation that will restore the rights for felons here in the state of Massachusetts to be able to exercise their most fundamental franchise, the ability to vote. So civic power, challenging 50 years of mass incarceration. It's a sentencing project, research and advocacy for reform. Again, civic power, challenging 50 years of mass incarceration. This is what the front of it looks like. They had a press conference there in Chicago. They're actually casting their ballots in the Cook County House of Correction. It's a polling place. They actually have the agency, just as you and I do, to cast our ballot. They have the ability to do that behind the wall, setting precedent for that to be able to be replicated all across the country. Incidentally, they're also doing it in Washington, D.C. However, those are one of the two of the places that are doing that, and we want that to happen also here in Massachusetts. Our Suffolk County Sheriff Tompkins, who quite candidly the only sheriff of color in the Commonwealth out of 13 counties, and he has been the leader in demonstrating accessibility to the population. Healing Our Land has been over for 10 years going into the Suffolk County House of Correction, mobilizing volunteers, gathering absentee ballot applications, registration forms, the red books, being able to bring in the candidates' platforms that has to do specifically with their reentry program or platform that we're calling, that's what they like to be called, is returning citizens, not ex-felons, not, but they're citizens who had their freedoms been taken from them. And so though their freedoms been taken from them, they still should have the ability to be able to vote for their sheriff who controls the conditions that they're housed in to actually correct, as opposed to perpetual punishment. Here in the state of Massachusetts, you should know that if you are incarcerated or your loved one is incarcerated and they're waiting pre-trial or serving a misdemeanor, they can vote here in the state of Massachusetts. The only way that you're prohibited to vote as it stands currently in the state of Massachusetts is if you're presently, operative word, presently serving time for a felony conviction. If you have been convicted of a felony and you have served your time and you're on probation or you're on parole, you can vote. So please be aware that that is the fact. Many people don't know that. Many elected officials don't know that. In fact, there was a time that the head of the elections committee did not know that. As we're advocating for that, they're saying, oh, people can vote and who are incarcerated. Yes, here in the state of Massachusetts, they're specially qualified. In fact, so they actually can participate via absentee ballot without having to register to vote. We encourage them to do that in the event that they're released. They need to be registered to vote in their respective polling place outside of incarceration, and it has to be registered. I think it's, don't quote me on this, but I want to say 10 days. It may be more before they are, before you can actually be. So if you come out and you haven't registered to vote, you can go to your polling place, and if that doesn't happen, and I want to say at least 10 days, it may be more. Forgive me that I don't have it off the top of my head. Again, I'm still kind of recovering from an incredible trip in Chicago, meeting brothers and sisters who are formerly incarcerated, hearing their stories, being able to hear from our brothers who are actually behind the wall, who are able to zoom in, who are actually doing civic education behind the wall, and doing programs like Transformational Prison Project. Brother Armand Coleman, who are doing restorative justice circles, and where you're having people who have done the most, if you will, who taken someone's life, and that's the most egregious crime that one can do, is take one's life. But to hear the victims, survivors, or loved ones who take them, so say the perpetrator being able to hear from the person who they perpetrated taking their loved one's life, to hear their loved ones say that we forgive you. One of the most powerful transformational things in the person's life that helped them to actually take accountability and to understand the harm that they have done. As people, our brother Armand Coleman, I encourage you to check out the interview that we had with Transformational Prison Project. It's on my Facebook page, Franklin Wendell Hobbs. It's on Healing Our Land's Facebook page, and it's on our YouTube channel, which is Franklin Wendell Hobbs. Please check out our YouTube channel. You'll see many of the interviews. You'll see many of the broadcasts. It's fairly new. We actually are on, I believe, Pastor Bruce Wall's Facebook page, and I'm going to make sure that that is the case. And we want to certainly hear from you, your comments, your feedback, as we are praying for our brothers and our sisters, as they are writing us from respective houses of incarceration. Healing Our Land has recently received a small grant from the Office of Returning Citizens that we were able to advocate for, a $2.6 million budget, and about $1 million of those dollars went to grants with faith-based organizations that are doing reentry work and restorative justice kinds of initiatives. And I want to acknowledge at-large City Councilor Ruthie LeJeune, as well as City Councilor Brian Worrell, who were the two who hosted the hearing. That they had zero budget for the Office of Returning Citizens, and they hosted that hearing. And I want to certainly acknowledge Tanya Fernandez Anderson as we're praying for her, asking you that know the words of prayer to pray for her. And let's look out for our sister. We understand, I hear that her phone was taken from her, that she was mugged and in the Mass and Cass area. I believe she has gotten her phone returned. However, I've reached out to her directly. I haven't heard back from her, but we need to protect our sister. And I just can't wait to talk to her and make sure that she is okay and how we can support her as she is over the Ways and Means Committee. That means over the money. And she made certain that this $2.6 million was actually created for the Office of Returning Citizens. They're now hiring 3 returning citizen positions, as the model that came from Washington, D.C. meant that the Office of Returning Citizens was supposed to be run by a returning citizen. And I thank God for our Office of Returning Citizens, my brother Bob Turner. I thank God for his tenacity. He has been there since its inception. Our former director was Kevin Sibley, who was appointed and went on, and now David Mayo, good brother. I appreciate David Mayo and what he is doing, and what we want to work more to have more of that office that is run by returning citizens. So I applaud that that's happening. I applaud that these resources are happening. I'm grateful to have these small resources to mentor returning citizens, and they are writing us in the overwhelmingly, and so we need help. We have a new volunteer administrative assistant, and the person of Rosana Rodriguez, and we're grateful for her and her helping us to be able to respond to our returning citizens. I met someone at Stacey Borden's Reentry Summit that was outstanding in Grove Hall. Kudos to our sister Stacey Borden, a returned citizen, running the only woman's re-entry program that's trauma informed by a returned citizen herself. It has 10 beds, and we heard the powerful testimonies. I streamed that as well. You should see that on my Facebook page, and so I encourage you to check that out. Powerful stories, as she talked about the sisters who helped her go a different direction when she was incarcerated, and now she's been able to come out as she's done the work on her own self and being trained to address trauma, and now she's able to receive sisters and help them as they come out of those traumatic experiences of being in cages and being dehumanized and coming back into society in a world that's very different than the world that they left from, and it's very scary to enter back into that. But she has a house for them and understands how to effectively help them to recover and heal from the trauma. And so we give God praise for our sister Stacey Borden and the New Beginnings program there, and we're looking to partner with her in Transformational Prison Project, our sister Danielle Williams of Prophetic Resistance, along with some other individuals, to create an actual a re-entry center, if you will, that is created and built by returning citizens, and that has a block of rooms for returning citizens to live there, where they actually can have a long-term process of healing and recovering and ultimately manifesting their full potential of being entrepreneurs, of being homeowners, of being reconnected with their families. And so and every mechanism of economic sustainability. And so workforce development. And I encourage people to check out our webpage. We now have a brand new webpage. I want to acknowledge my brother Eric Kennedy for his support and being able to help us to create the website, as well as we have a new brochure. And so our brochure we passed out and we're passing out. So if you know someone who is a returned citizen or a returning citizen that needs some practical resources, i.e. mentoring, food vouchers, clothing vouchers, job skills training, job referrals, housing referrals, social security cards, birth certificate assistance, mental health referrals, cell phone, public transportation passes, spiritual support, community advocacy, and civic engagement are some of the things that we're able to offer most immediately as we're going into the Nashville County House of Correction, the Nashville County Jail, Suffolk County House of Correction. And we are also supporting building relationship with brothers and sisters behind the wall while they are there. And as we go into do civic education, we're able to connect them with practical resources. They can write us and have their letters heard on the air. I can go back and visit them as the volunteer chaplain and just minister to them and be able to build that relationship that when they come out, we meet them at the door. We're able to help them to gather their belongings that may be at different places. We're able to help them to have treat them to a nice meal so they can be able to enjoy a meal that's not, the meal that they might be getting inside the house of correction that's not the optimal standard of food that one would desire. We're able to just love upon them and to break bread and to build relationship with them so that when they come out, they don't get sucked into the cesspool or to the behavior or the communities that might drag them back into some of the activity or as they're, and they're not able to make it past Mass and Cast or Miracle Mile and get stuck. And so we want to meet them there. It's most critical that entry, that immediate release post incarceration, to walk a different way, to help them to go to their next place, if that's their halfway house, wherever that might be. And ultimately, again, the goal is that they can help be a part of something that they can give back by building this center with giving them marketable skills that they can make a living wage. So we've got a grand vision, and I tell you, people in Chicago from all across the country that were at this convening are excited about the vision and looking to be able to partner. We can have a franchise that, so when we have these conventions like we had in Chicago, we don't have to go to a hotel that's not hiring our own returning citizens or people of color, and we can be able to we can host conventions for our own, for the sentencing project, host the convention for some folks from the NAACP, the Urban League, our faith community, that we can be able to have a place that has excellence, 5-star from valet to doorman to everything in the hospitality industry, that we can be able to serve with excellence and in community. Amen. So I'm excited about it, and we need your help for this to come to fruition. Again, our new website is www.healingourlandinc.org. That's www.healingourlandinc.org. Please check out the website. We'd love to hear your feedback, as it is brand new and it's a living website. So it is one that is continuing to evolve. So please, if you would not mind and be so kind to be able to check out the website and give us your feedback. We need your support for us to be able to, again, have the full vision come to fruition. We need people who'll be able to write people, pen pals, as it's, we quite candidly, our staff is Eric and myself, our new volunteer administrative assistant, Rosanna Rodriguez, our intern, Nasir, has gone back to school, so he's not able to be with us most immediately. God willing, he'll be back next cycle of internships. Hopefully, was just did an outstanding job, helped us to get some organizing in our office here at Global Ministries Christian Church, and I thank God for him and for his insight. He was able to host some of our broadcasts. He was able to schedule many guests, and he was responsible for getting every city councilor who is running for District 3 invited, and actually the majority of them on. The last of the two, one will be today from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the person of Rosalind Warnham. And we will be going into the Suffolk County House of Correction, I believe, on Thursday of this week. And we need more volunteers to go with us behind the wall. If you're interested, we can be able to tell you how you can get cleared and how we can give you a brief training. We are nonpartisan. I underscore we are nonpartisan. You will have to sign a nonpartisan disclosure to make certain that you will adhere to that. It's important that we don't express our personal preference, but that we simply let them know they have the right to vote. And I'll say the candidates are coming in with us. On last Wednesday, a portion of them came in with us. I want to acknowledge Joel Richards, who came in with us, as well as Rosalind Warnham's assistant came in with us. and I thank them for that. There are other city councilors that were prepared to come with us on tomorrow that I believe will be coming with us on Thursday. So I'm grateful for the candidates who are going behind the wall in many instances for the very first time. This is a population that people don't think of, and it's important that we do. There are 700,000 people who are released from incarceration. We have a shortage of a workforce development in every field, from electricians to plumbers to all the things that can participate in this gentrification, that they can be able to make a living wage and be able to support their families and not have to feel they need to revert to illegal activity to be able to provide for themselves or for their families to be able to even continue to live here in the city of Boston. So again, we need your help. We need more volunteers. If you're interested, you can reach out to us at 617-435-2066, 617-435-2066. You can email me at franklin.healingourlandinc@gmail.com. Again, that's Franklin, FRANKLIN .healingourlandinc, one word, at gmail.com. You can certainly give us a call live here on the air at 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. I'm going to share some more. I want to acknowledge our brother Jeff Bass from the Emmanuel Gospel Center, who is mentoring Healing Our Land, and he has challenged us to, we're reading this book called To Serve, and it's blessing my life as we're building a board that's called to serve. We at Healing Our Land are called to serve the underserved, the marginalized, the disenfranchised. And if you're willing to be a part of this movement to help us as we are called to serve, we welcome you, as we need, again, an executive director. We need a person who is good in grant writing. We need a person who is good with maybe a CPA, a person who's a good accountant, as the various building blocks of a functioning, effective board, and that we can really bring the full vision to fruition. Again, I want to acknowledge this voting rights restoration. Senator Liz Miranda, Senator Adam Gomez, Representative Erika Uterhoven, and Representative China Tyler. Last session took a clear step forward to dismantling barriers to political participation. It passed voting access protections for incarcerated people who retain the right but are unable to vote while incarcerated, pretrial or on misdemeanor conviction. As part of the Votes Act, only the second state in the nation to do so. Now it's time to build on that reform. End incarcerated disenfranchisement altogether by restoring the right to vote for those serving felony convictions, the only group excluded from the Commonwealth electorate. We will join states like Maine and Vermont, as well as Washington, D.C. Let me say, with regard to Maine and Vermont, though that's wonderful, Maine and Vermont does not have the disproportionate people of color that we have in every incarceral setting across the country. I'll further read, and reduce the carceral state's ability to dilute political power of those disproportionately Black and Latinx communities it targets. Again, mass incarceration 50 years ago, the war on drugs, and we see now that, again, even on mass incarceration, largely it's disproportionately not people of color. And when it became the opioid epidemic, it wasn't the same response when it was the crack epidemic that was specifically targeted to communities of color. Tough on crime, 3 strikes you're out, and people, we've got juveniles who were unfortunately thrust into these activities, many instances by their families. Our brother Armand Colburn, our brother Bobby, who was testified right here and talked about their stories of, parents caught up into drug addiction, and unfortunately they were raising themselves and got caught up in the community and took someone's life at a young age, and served many years being incarcerated, and not blaming anyone. They've taken full responsibility, and they've done the transformative work via restorative justice circles, and now God gave them the grace to be released. And they are now giving back by going into the Suffolk County House of Correction, the Nashville County Jail, going to detention centers and teaching folks to do these restorative justice circles, as they've got the scars and the pain that they've gone down that road, that people are glamorized by the media, that makes people think that it's cool to be a thug, and it's the video games and so forth that make you desensitized to the violence. Where we played cops and robbers with cap guns and water guns, people are playing cops and robbers, if you will, with real guns, and totally not any value for life. And so I thank God for these brothers that are anointed, that are the credible messengers to be the adults that can speak to this generation. I want to further go on to say, why end felony disenfranchisement? Well, felony disenfranchisement is a product of and exacerbates systemic racism. Over 50% of the approximately 9,000 Massachusetts residents disenfranchised are Black and Latinx. Let me say that again. Over 50% of approximately 9,000 Massachusetts residents disenfranchised are Black and Latinx, despite compromising less than 20% of the general population. As a state that cherishes our role in the creation of American democracy, we must assert that voting is a right of all citizens of legal age, not a privilege, but a right. A person's freedom is taken from them. Their right to participate in their own correction and recovery should not be taken from them. Felony disenfranchisement exacerbates the documented inhumane conditions in our prisons, as incarcerated individuals lose a core ability to speak out. Civic participation by those behind the walls reduces recidivism by creating durable ties to the outside world and community back home. How we end it and the next steps. Massachusetts is already on its way. On April 26, 2023, the Joint Committee on Election Laws took the significant step of giving a favorable report to S8 and H26 constitutional amendments that would ensure that no eligible voter loses voting rights on the basis of felony conviction or incarceration status. Now, it's up to the legislature and leadership to bring the amendments to a vote in the next scheduled joint session, known as, quote, Constitutional Convention, unquote, on October the 11th, 2023. Mark that date, on October 11th, 2023, and vote yes. Take action. Call your state senators and representatives requesting their support for S8 and H26. Again, S8 and H26 before and during the October Constitutional Convention. Ask your legislator to co-sponsor the proposals. Endorse voting rights restoration. You can follow them at DBBC_MA on Twitter. That's again at DBBC_MA on Twitter. Or reach out directly to Democracy Behind Bars, one word, Democracy Behind Bars at gmail.com. Meet the Democracy Behind Bars Coalition. It's a coalition of advocacy community organizations led by incarcerated organizers committed to ensuring that democracy does not stop at prisons and jails in Massachusetts. Incidentally, this piece of legislation to restore the rights for felons, which is what we resoundingly hear when we go behind the wall, is I'm serving a felony conviction. I cannot vote. Please change that. And that's the one thing we're hearing at every incarceral setting is the urgency for them to feel empowered by restoring their right to vote. And so we're honoring that voice, and we're honoring that request. And I need to say that the African American Coalition Committee, the AACC, also known as the African American Coalition Committee, also known as the AACC, at MCI Norfolk. I had the privilege of meeting with the brothers behind the wall, the executive committee, and they were so pleased. I want to acknowledge Dr. Ojituku, the head of the Boston Public Health Commission, the first woman of color to head that up. Also, I want to acknowledge Philip Reeson, who is working with her to be able to dismantle this racism. They're talking about the health conditions, that they don't have health information, addressing diabetes, addressing mental health, addressing home brew and its implications during the pandemic. People were isolated, even more so being isolated, who were behind the wall, and some folks who were struggling with addiction relapsed. Some people, their mental health was challenged, and resorted to easing the pain with home brew that exacerbates diabetes. And they don't have any mechanism of being able to proactively address their health care or to even get information. And so Dr. Ojituku brought had some slides to address those respective issues, and we sent them there electronically, and they were not actually they didn't get them to the people. We tried to bring them in physically with State Representative Chris Worrell. We were able to bring we had to count each one that we brought in, go through an extensive process, and we couldn't leave them with them. We had to actually look at them with just the executive board, not the full committee, and take them back out the door. And so we're still advocating for them to get this information that they can disseminate amongst their peers and the broader institution. So we need your help as we build this infrastructure inside MCI Norfolk, that these brothers can be able to have some agency to be proactive to address their own health. And so, again, Voting Acts restoration, that is what's happening, that we need you to, it's very close, and we're simultaneously want to acknowledge my brother David Baxter and the No Longer 3/5 organization, also that was founded behind the wall. Many of these brothers are founders of organizations behind the wall, and when they come out, they are continuing that work inside, outside. And so No Longer 3/5, Brother David Baxter, also interviewed right here on Boston Praise Radio ONT. Whenever I check out his interview, he now works for Roca, and he is helping brothers, these young brothers, again, mentoring them not to be able to go some of the same ways that they unfortunately went. But another strategy, in addition to the piece of legislation that we're hopeful that everyone will call their senators and the state representatives, encouraging them to be able to pull this from the Constitutional Convention agenda and to actually have it passed favorably. In addition, another double-pronged strategy is to be able to do a referendum. And so that's a matter of signatures. And so David Baxter and another brother who's actually behind the wall, Derek Washington, who we also interviewed from behind the wall, was on the broadcast speaking while David Baxter was here as their co-founders, one behind the wall, one outside of the wall, and they were able to talk about the importance of this No Longer 3/5. And I should say on September 20th at the State House, joint venture. That's another thing. People are behind the wall because they're saying it was a joint venture just because they were in the vicinity, or they heard that this person was connected to them, and people are serving life because they're saying it was a joint venture. And so there's a piece of legislation to be able to change that as well. I don't have the specific number. I will get that to you, but I can tell you on September 20th, there'll be a rally at the State House. In fact, I can bring you some of that information because I did just get some of that information that I will be one of the speakers along with Russell Holmes and a host of other speakers, encouraging people to help us to also be aware of this notion of joint venture and to be able to eradicate that piece of legislation that is unfairly. People in many instances are finding that people are not even, they've been proven not guilty, and yet people are serving for joint venture for things that ultimately find out that the person who even was the original person was exonerated from what they were alleged to have been serving time for. Here we go. SELWAP. We are joint venture in collaboration with the Harriet Tubman Project and Mass Second Look At presents Where There Is People, There Is Power. Sounds like our sister, Minister Priscilla Flint. People Power, State House, 24th Beacon Street, Boston, Mass. 02133. September 20th, 12 noon to 2 p.m. Join me there. Encourage everybody to come on out. Guest speakers will be State Representative Russell Holmes, Representative Christopher Worrell, Rep. Eureka Uterhoven, Alexandra Bailey, the Sentencing Project, Cynthia Goldberg, Jacqueline Fonseca, as well as myself, exoneree James Watson. Let me say that again, exoneree. So they were exonerated. James Watson, D.J.E. Doobie, and Sheikha McIntosh, and more. And again, that is happening September the 20th, 12 noon to 2 p.m. And for more information, you can reach Cynthia Goldberg at Cynthia at the THEF8 foundation.org. Again, Cynthia at the F8 foundation.org. I would say that there's also that evening going to be a town hall for the Office of Returning Citizens is putting on a town hall that evening for returning citizens and returned citizens and activists to be able to talk about how we prepare for our returning citizens in a place where housing is a challenge for people, black and brown and poor. People coming out of incarceration are even more so challenged with being able to re-enter back into society with a changing city, that the cost of living is one that precludes, and never mind all the restrictions that they have as returned citizens, that they can't live in this particular setting or this particular setting of public housing. So many restrictions that set them up to go right back into incarceration or couch surfing, or staying with a lady friend that could ultimately go awry. That's really not the stable housing that one needs to have a sanctuary, a stable, productive, healthy environment that they can actually start to address the trauma and recover and heal and prepare to be productive, contributing societies and reconcile with their families, with their children. And so we need your help again to bring this full vision to fruition. Amen. And so I do want to share some more with you with regard to democracy behind bars. Forgive me. Coalition in Massachusetts. Prison disenfranchisement has no place in a racially equitable modern democracy. The Democracy Behind Bars Coalition, DBBC, otherwise known as, is committed to ensuring, bear with me here, family. Here we go. Thank you, Lord. Okay, so Democracy Behind Bars Coalition, DBBC, is committed to ensuring that democracy does not stop at prisons and jails in Massachusetts. Specifically, the coalition is working to ensure incarcerated people who have the right to vote have access to the ballot to ensure that over-policed communities are not stripped of political power through prison gerrymandering, and to restore the right to vote to all incarcerated Bay Staters. We are led by the African American Coalition Committee, who have worked to restore and protect voting rights and access and dismantle barriers to racial equity from behind the wall at MCI Norfolk. Again, these brothers wrote this piece of legislation to restore their own right to vote. I want to acknowledge State Representative Russell Holmes, who shaped it into legislation and was a strong advocate for it to get thus far. And we want to get it over the finish line. And 2023 coalition priorities: advance felony reenfranchisement onto the ballot through legislative advocacy and grassroots support. Ensure that the Votes Act provisions to enable jail-based voting and reentry voter registration are fully enforced. Identify and implement best practices to maximize voter registration among returning citizens. So the Vote Act has been passed, but now becomes the piece of implementation. So again, here in Massachusetts, you can vote if you are waiting pretrial serving a misdemeanor. With that said, there's no infrastructure in place for one to exercise that right. We're piecemealing that, being Healing Our Land, working in collaboration with the Democracy Behind Bars Coalition, volunteers from the faith community and just the community at large. And we're going in and we are making sure that their ballots are, that their absentee ballot applications are being completed, the registration forms are being completed, that they're getting the platforms of the respective candidates so they can make an informed decision, that we're bringing the candidates in that they can ask them directly their questions, and we are following it through with the elections department. We have a great relationship with Commissioner Tavares, as well as who is over the absentee ballot department there, and the staff has been outstanding as well over time. We've built a great relationship with the Boston Elections Department to make sure that we understand how to implement the laws, how to be able to create some new innovation to ensure that more access is realized. A drop box has now been put in both the Suffolk County House of Correction and Nashua County Jail lobbies. That's progress. The goal and vision is ultimately to have a mobile ballot box, that it will go from cell to cell, and that automatically that Sheriff Tompkins will communicate electronically everyone under his custody and care who's eligible to vote to the elections department, just as you and I receive at our home the opportunity addressed to our name to request a mail-in ballot. Their home, unfortunately, is their incarceral setting, and they should also come to their cell an opportunity to request an absentee ballot addressed to their name. As it stands, before the Votes Act was passed, the onus was upon the incarcerated individual to be able to have the wherewithal to advocate for themselves, to know that they could vote, and to ultimately be able to gather those materials, do the research, and then be able to get a stamp, and to be able to find out the information, and then ultimately be able to hope that they get a ballot, hope that their ballot actually gets to the drop box, hope that it gets back to the elections department. And we are building infrastructure to be able to make sure that that happens automatically. I am challenged as I am here alone and the doorbell is ringing, and I do know that we've got a guest, so I'm going to pause briefly. I'll be right back. I apologize for the dead air as I cannot play music. I'm going to see if there's something that I can play that will not get flagged. Bear with me here as I multitask and try to be creative and how we can manage this. This is why we need capacity, family. So again, we need your help that we're able to do what we need to do to be able to do all the things that we need to do. So with that said, let's see if we can bring you. Nope, that's not going to work. Bear with me here, family. Blessed Savior. Thank you, Lord. Hallelujah. Bless your name, God. Okay, I think this may work. Let's see. Let's go to some instrumental. Okay. I will think we will be okay with this. I pray that we will. This is my niece singing The Father's Love. And bear with me here because I need to do another little technical so that you can actually hear this. I pray that you will be able to. Again, so sorry, family, bear with me. Bless the Lord. Okay, I think we are going to be okay. Let's see. Here we go. Be right back.
Father's love is indescribable. The Father's love is unexplainable. The Father's love is unbelievable. The Father's love, it is available. It is available.
Okay, we're back.
Nothing can separate us from the love of God, full of mercy, full of grace.
We're back, family. Thank you for your patience and your understanding. Amen. So I want to go back to what I was sharing with you. And where was I at? So, blessed Savior. Let's see. Okay. So the priorities are to ensure that the Votes Act provision to enable jail-based voting, re-entry voter registration are fully enforced, identify and implement best practices to maximize voter registration among returning citizens, galvanize support for building political power behind the wall through statewide advocacy, public education, and grassroots organizing. Back to the ballot box, mobile ballot box initiative. Again, Sheriff Tompkins has stated right here on this broadcast that he supports felony re-enfranchisement, and if he could, he would have them cast their ballot directly behind the wall. We are now post this conference looking to be able to connect with our sister Sophia from the Civil Liberty Lawyers organization, as we connected with some folks who are lawyers from across the country who believe that that should not be a problem. But we want to make sure that now that this Votes Act has been passed, that we can actually implement the vision that quite candidly was one our sister Representative Nika El-Ugardo crafted to be a piece of legislation that would be able to be this mobile ballot box initiative that would be a pilot in the Suffolk County to implement the Votes Act, that we could challenge other places across the Commonwealth to follow that lead. So we're hopeful yet to make that realize that electronically that the sheriff would communicate everyone eligible to the elections department in kind. They would create absentee ballot applications addressed to each returning citizen eligible. It be in a locked mobile ballot box to bypass the mail and not to incur additional costs via postage, or and it to be to not to be slowed down, so that it would ultimately be in this locked mobile ballot box that would be delivered to a municipal officer at the Suffolk County House of Correction at the Nashua County Jail, and it would then go from cell to cell. Some folks, unfortunately, are illiterate, so we want to have a relationship, being healing our land, with the Sheriff's Department to make certain as we go in with the volunteers. So we go in with the box to make sure that it goes from cell to cell, and everyone almost has to opt out, that we do the civic education, that they understand the various branches of government. They understand the role of a city council, the terms of a city council, the terms of a mayor, the terms of a sheriff, the roles of a DA they may be more familiar with, of the sheriff. They can elect that person, as well as state representatives and senators. And every single year there is an election, and we want to be able to do that civic education. We're partnering with entities like Boston University. I want to acknowledge Professor Megan Denver and acknowledge Brother Eric Kennedy for that connection with Boston University. It's Boston University. Forgive me. Shout out to Boston University for Professor Megan Denver and for Dr. Brunson. These are professors there that have been on this broadcast, and they actually have. Professor Denver has actually come with us at the Nashua County House of Correction, and soon to be Dr. Abigail, or Dr. Ballou, I should say. She has been outstanding in helping us to do a lot of the administrative kinds of things, as well as crafting civic education materials, as well as our sister now, Dr. Cook from Harvard University. And even so they have their students that have come with us and are coming with us behind the wall, creating civic education in Spanish, as we were challenged to make certain that we brought the materials in Spanish. We've got some volunteers. Patty Lee will be going in with us, who speaks Spanish, and she was most gracious to translate the most recent document so that our returning citizens can be able to get that information in their language. The phone is ringing again, so I'm going to see if I can get this phone call while we go to some more music.
The Father's love is indescribable. The Father's love is unexplainable. The Father's love is unbelievable.
Yes, the Father's love is unbelievable. That's our guest, our sister Rosalind Warnham, who will be with us on the next hour. So she will be with us momentarily. So stay tuned on the other side of the top of the hour, where she will be joining us, where you can ask your questions, give your comments, and directly engage her as she is running for this hotly contested seat. 7 people are running for this seat. And so, again, she'll be with us on the second hour from 5 p.m. through till 6 p.m. With that said, again, I want to go back to this vision. And so this will happen up until 8 p.m. on election day, that this mobile ballot box will be able to, they'll give agency of the returning citizen to cast their own ballot directly in the ballot mobile box that will then be delivered to the elections department, just as every drop box, every polling place has the ability up until 8 p.m. to cast your ballot. They likewise should have that same agency and opportunity. And quite candidly, it's the responsibility of the Secretary of State to make sure that this is actually implemented, meaning that now that this Vote Act has passed, ensuring that those who already had the right to vote, that many people weren't aware, that they're communicating that with every elections department throughout the Commonwealth, and that they're not only communicating the right, because many elections departments don't believe people have the right, and they're casting out ballots and just making it very difficult for their to even get the application, never mind the actual ballot or the ballot to actually be cast. And so we're seeing the numbers, and the commissioner of the elections department, as well as the absentee ballot director, our brother Wee, has said is grateful for the increased numbers of participation of those at the Suffolk County House of Correction, the Nashua County Jail, as a result of the efforts of healing our land. And we want to build that capacity and institutionalize this so that it goes beyond healing our lands volunteers and when we have access to come in, but that it's institutionalized, as sometimes things happen and we may not have the ability to go in, though initially we did. COVID, various things happen, so many factors that could prohibit the progress that we've made that's not quite candidly even foolproof. We're allowed to go to some units, and sometimes they don't know who's serving a misdemeanor, who's serving a felony, as they're housed together. And so we need your support to realize this mobile ballot box initiative that we're desiring to have realized at the Suffolk County House of Correction, the Nashua County Jail. And so with that said, we're going to pause as we go to our station ID and prepare for the other side of the top of the hour for our guest, Rosalind Warnham, who is Boston District 3 City Councilor candidate. So stay tuned, and we will be back in just a few moments.